It's great to be back in DC. I used to live and work in DC. I worked at Arnold Advertising Agency out in McLean, which I heard is no longer there. Probably because I left, you know. And I worked for AdWorks, which was another agency in DC. So as you can tell, my background's advertising. So pretty much the people that Leslie was talking about that she didn't like, that was me. But you know, she had great insights about the challenges of IMC, and that I know exactly what she was talking about, because we were trying to execute an integrated marketing communications program for our clients across public relations, advertising, and digital, and then social towards, you know, even more today. And that was a challenge. And often, as she said, in my experience, I worked for this one company, a Fortune 500. I won't say who, and it made sense in their mind because they would hire, we're going to hire the best advertising agency, and we happen to be from Pennsylvania, and we're going to hire the best PR firm, and they were in New York City, and then we're going to hire the best digital agency, and they were in San Francisco. So we would have these awkward conference calls where we're trying to integrate our solutions, and of course you're competing for budget, that the client gave a budget, and you're fighting each other, and no one likes each other's ideas. On the other end, I had great experiences where at my agency we had an in-house PR department, and we had an in-house digital department, and I was part of the creative department. And on the best days, we would literally work together. So I worked on an airport, a regional airport account, and we needed to come up with an integrated campaign. We literally all hopped in a car, drove to the airport, and sat in the terminal. And the advertising person was there, the PR person was there, the traditional media person was there, and the digital and social media person was there. And we literally sat there for a couple hours and baked the idea from the ground up together, completely integrating our disciplines. And it was one of the most successful campaigns the airport ever had. They had the highest traffic through the airport months after we ran the campaign. Problem was, the CEO of our company looked at our billable hours, and it was outrageously expensive to get all those people in a room sitting, creating ideas together. So that we were unfortunately unable to do that down the road. What I'm going to talk about today is thinking from an integrated perspective from marketing down, and really trying to think from all these disciplines as pulled together. And it's a necessity these days because of this premise that I have. It's not accident that I have these consumers holding these phones up like they're protesting. Consumers have really taken control today of spreading the news and your brand communication. So as a marketer, as a PR professional, as an advertising professional, as a digital or social professional, what do we do with that? So let's take a look. I don't know if you've seen this clip. My wife shared it with me because she saw it on Facebook. Of course, that's how we get our news these days. And this is the world that we live in.
That's the best one of the 300 pictures I've taken of myself today. Every girl in the picture is locked into her phone. Every single one is dialed in. Welcome to parenting in 2015. They're all just complete. Oh, hold on. I'd take a selfie with the hot dog. Selfie with the churro. Selfie just of a selfie. Single and nobody noticed. He just collects all the phones. You're not getting them back to the end of the game.
So that's a Diamondback game, right? They're supposedly there to watch the baseball game, but what are they doing, right? And Chad was just saying to me in front of the room, this is the way the world is now. We're all always like this, right? And we're not always doing like the most serious things. You know, we're trying to get the best selfie. So I would say that this is kind of sad. This is a sad outcome of social media. But as marketers, we need them. We need these girls to help us in social media. They are the ones that drive the conversation and what's being shared out there. We also need them to help us sell, right? We create promotions, we use hashtags. That hashtag does not work unless we get people like them, the active social media users, to spread it for us and to share it and to participate in our promotions. We need them to help us share our messages, right? Advertising, I could go buy a 30-second spot on The Voice, and I'm guaranteed to reach a certain hundreds of thousands of people, but it's very expensive. If I put something out on social media, it doesn't work unless I get people on social media to share it. So we need them. The selfie sorority girls ended up appearing on Ellen, and of course that generated even more buzz, and then we get earned media in news. So how do we do this? I think the big struggle is a lot of us in the communications professions, we learned this model. And this is the IMC model. The problem is it's a control model. So much of us were taught this control model. We need a strategy, and we do consumer research, and we have to hone and craft the message, and then we push it out to the disciplines. This is the message we're going to put in through PR, through advertising, through digital marketing. It's all controlled and approved and pushed out there. The problem is, and then of course, IMC brings all the disciplines together. If we do work together with all these agencies, it's consistent, and we push it out to our consumer. And then we want to influence that consumer to make a purchase, to change their perception, to join a cause, whatever you're working on. But this is only half the picture today, right? There's an equal and opposite force pushing up from the bottom, and that's the consumer who is active in social media. They are generating their own content out there, not only competing because they're talking about their funny cat, but they're also talking about our brands, and we have no control over them. So here are the facts. A survey was done, said 25% of search results of the world's top 20 largest brands are links to user-generated content. A quarter of all communication on the internet about your brand, it's a regular consumer talking about your brand, saying whatever they want. You don't have control over that 25%. It's October, right? And it's playoffs time for Major League Baseball, and I just went out and I started looking at their social media channels, and they do put out a lot of their own content. They're trying to highlight what's going on with the teams in the playoffs, but there's a lot of user-generated content as well, talking about Major League Baseball and the teams. And this is just in their official channels. Think of all the unofficial channels where people are talking about Major League Baseball. So if you were the marketing manager for Major League Baseball trying to communicate positive messages, a lot of what's out there is technically out of your control because consumers are creating it. And then I think Leslie actually cited this same study. This is from Nielsen that says not only are they generating 25% of the content about our brands, consumers trust it more than anything we're creating, right? So brand websites are pretty good at 70%, but recommendations from people I know are at 83%. They're going to trust the people they know, and that's why it's important to reach those influencers, like a couple of the presenters already said. But look at this, paid online, only 48% trust in online video ads. Ads served in search engine results, 47, and it goes down. All our traditional advertising, if I buy that TV ad in The Voice, 63% trust. This 25% of the content that consumers are creating is going to be more powerful, and people believe it more than any of this official content that we can create. So this brings me to this kind of, I talk about in the book this shift. There's a shift that has to occur in your mindset about how to effectively communicate in this environment. And we're used to crafting our messages and getting the bullhorn and just blasting it out. But we have this somewhat equal voice of the consumers that can be just as powerful as any of our official brand messages competing against us. So we have to shift from this control model. The shift is moving from the control of the marketer to the consumers. That doesn't mean we've lost all control and there's no hope, but there's a way we have to shift our strategy and the way we approach it, and we have to put the bullhorn down a little bit. There's still a place for traditional advertising to generate awareness and traditional, direct mail and all those things and PR releases. Those are still important, but it has to be balanced with something else in terms of engaging the consumer. So how do we move from creating everything and pushing it down to thinking more on this scale of the total picture? I was contemplating this when I was putting the book together, and I needed a tool that kind of really puts you in the mindset, this shift of mindset from the marketer control perspective to the consumer's perspective. And what I did is I went back to my undergraduate days. I actually started out as a journalism major, and and I had the newspaper class, and they teach you how to write a newspaper article, right? So I go back to that class, and I started thinking like a journalist again. And the journalist is like you're a publisher, and you're thinking about what information does my reader want, and how do I need to deliver it to them? So I went back to the 5 W's, right? Most journalists are taught, at least when I was in school, you're taught to write an article and you have to answer these 5 questions. Who, what, where, when, and why. And some people add how. The how would be your social media plan. So this is what I created. It's a social media audit template. And there's other people have had social media audits devices, but this one was unique where I went and I took it and I deliberately put it in this framework of the 5 W's so that you can really see it from the consumer's perspective. And what I have here is, what you do is you go and you're going to go audit all the communication that's happening about your brand. This is like the first step of putting a complete social media marketing plan together. And first you're going to start with the who. So you start with who's talking, and number 1 is company. And here you are going to find all the social accounts that are existing for your brand. Now for some of you that may be easy, like we're a small company and we just have Twitter and Facebook and that's it. If you're a big brand, especially if you're like a franchise and you have local offices, you may have all these rogue accounts out there that were started by the department manager or the regional manager in the Southwest, which is different from the Northeast. So one thing is, let's track down all these accounts and make sure they're unified and they're communicating on the same page. The other thing is to find out all the different channels you're in. Maybe you opened an account on MySpace 9 years ago and you forgot about it. But then when you search and you find it, you're like, oh, we have this dormant account out there. Why do we still have that? Then you go to the consumer and you're going to search your brand name, your product name, your service names, and you find where are people talking about our brand and what are they saying. So you may find that a lot of people are talking about our brand on one channel, but we're not there, and that could be a concern. And then you look, of course, everything in marketing has to be in reaction to our competitors. So you find out where's our competitors, these are our competitors, and these are the channels that they're operating on. And then you move to describing the environment, where this is occurring, and the kind of content that's being shared. And then you look at the sentiment, the what. And I'm gonna get to a specific example here so we can see it in context. What kind of content is being shared, or is it positive or negative or neutral? And that's important. And then you look at frequency, date and frequency. Frequency is important. How often are we tweeting or posting on Facebook? Are we posting 10 times a day, once a week, once a month? How often are consumers talking about us? How often is our competitor out there? And then this is important too, is to ask yourself why. We're on Facebook. Why are we there? What is the purpose? Is it to drive traffic to our website? Then what's the key performance indicator that measures that? Is it visitors or unique visitors? Or are we trying to drive directly to a purchase on the website? Or are we just trying to increase store traffic? Like, why does this, a lot of us probably just opened an account on a channel because, you know, a couple years ago Pinterest was very hot and everyone was jumping on Pinterest. But we never thought of like, well, what's the business purpose and what are we trying to accomplish there? And then especially, how are we going to measure that success? And then at the very end, you identify each thing as a problem or opportunity. So I created this hypothetical example of a company. And what we're going to do is we're just going to look at this company and the first just two of their social accounts. And it's interesting because if you're the marketer, you're like, well, I know what we're doing on Twitter. I approved the content calendar last month. But when you go and look at it from a different perspective, you start seeing things, and especially when you compare it against what the consumers are saying about you and what the competitors are doing. So we go on Twitter and we find our company. We're sharing text with links. That's what we're doing. We're doing 140 character, less than 140, and we have links to our website. We have a Flickr account. On our Flickr account, we're posting photos and we have text and we're links. We're using Flickr as kind of a place to house all our photo content. Then we start searching our brand, product, or service name, and we discover, hey, consumers are actually talking about us on Twitter. And they're making comments, but they have questions. And then we go back to our account and then we discover we're just posting these texts with links trying to drive traffic to our website. We're not actually answering any of the customers' questions. And they're having comments, and we're not really engaging. We go on Flickr, we discover there's really not a lot of activity on Flickr. But we do find there's a lot of people on Instagram who are talking about our brand, and they're sharing great brand experiences. They're taking photos, like if we're a restaurant, they're taking photos of the experience at the restaurant and posting them with text and hashtags. But we're not even on Instagram. So you can see, you already start seeing problems and opportunities. Then you go to your competitor and you compare your Twitter account with your competitor. Your competitor is on Twitter, but they're sharing photo and videos with their links. And we know, and they're using hashtags. So we know, like, maybe when we started this Twitter account a couple years ago, this was best practices, but now we know to get true engagement, you need to have photos and videos, and you need to use hashtags to get more exposure and reach a new audience. And your competitor's doing that. And then we also noticed that our competitor is actually on Instagram. They're sharing photos, using hashtags, and they're getting a lot of great engagement with their fans. So here we describe the what? The type of content, the sentiment. We're sharing headlines from our website. So maybe we have a blog on our website, and every time we post a blog, we're sharing headlines, and we have links, and we're trying to drive traffic back to our blog that's on our main website. But we have little comments, likes, or retweets on our created content. On Flickr, we're sharing photos from our website, maybe the main photo from our blog post, but we have low views, low faves, and low comments, or maybe none. The consumer, if we analyze the content there, they're seeking help from negative brand experiences. So maybe there's one aspect of our brand, and if we look at it, we could probably figure out what's that one thing that's causing those negative experiences. Because it seems to be different than the positive experiences they're having on Instagram. So maybe when they call our customer service number on the phone, they're having issues, but when they're in the actual store, they have these great experiences. And it helps us to identify a problem that needs to be solved. The competitor, they're sharing photos and videos. They have some comments, likes, and retweets on Twitter. But Instagram, they're sharing photos. They're getting a lot of likes, comments, and shares. They're getting a lot of engagement with their fans on Instagram. And then we want to look at, this is basically our content calendar. How frequently are we posting? And in this example, you notice, we send out 2 tweets per day, and we have 5 posts per week where we're uploading the photos to Flickr. Our consumers are, and this is probably a modest estimate, there's 20 tweets per day about our brand, and there's 10 posts on Instagram about our brand. If you're a bigger brand, that would be a lot higher. And then we look at our competitor, they have 5 tweets per hour going out. Their frequency is a lot higher than ours. And on Instagram, they have 15 posts per day. So their frequency is a lot higher than what we're doing. And I actually loosely based this on, I went and I compared the Major League Baseball accounts to the NFL accounts. So these estimates of frequency are actually loosely based on those 2 brands. So there could be such a unique difference there. Why are we doing this? Again, you have to go back and say we want to drive traffic to the website. But the problem is we have little visits and unique visitors, and the same thing with Flickr. What's the main reason people are communicating to or about your brand in Twitter? And you just have to go through and you look to figure that out. What we figured out is people are going to Twitter, and this is for a lot of brands this is occurring. They want to complain on Twitter, and they're expecting solutions and response from the brand. And we currently are not doing that when we do this audit. In Instagram, they're going on Instagram to actually give praise to the brand of the actual in-store experience because it's great. They take a picture, they upload it. But we're not even on Instagram. We're losing an opportunity there to take positive messages about our brand and spread it further. Our competitor, they're driving traffic to their website, and they're actually they're probably getting a lot of visits, unique visitors, and they're getting a ton of engagement we can see because they have a lot of views, a lot of faves, and a lot of comments on their Instagram content that they're putting out there. And then at the end, I just have this 5-point scale. 1 is a problem, 5 is an opportunity. And you want to look at each channel and evaluate it. Is this a problem or an opportunity? I would say definitely the consumers complaining and we're not responding to them is a problem with the negative comments. This is more of an opportunity because there's positive messaging going on there. Our consumers are already talking positively about us. We need to take advantage of that and open an Instagram account. This is an account that we're putting a lot of effort in, but it's not getting results. So that would be a problem to me, and I would close it and shift my resources somewhere else. And we know Instagram's working for our main competitor, so that would probably be a good decision. And then you go through and you can identify what problems do we need to solve, what opportunities do we need to take advantage of. And this chart would just would grow, as you identify all the channels and where all this conversation is going. And it gives you this overall big perspective. The big advantage of this is it shifts your perspective to the consumer's perspective, their point of view. You are not getting this, when I worked in the advertising agency, it was day-to-day, deadline. I never got to sit back and do this kind of thinking on something. You hardly ever get to see the big picture. So it's a process to take yourself from behind the on the other side of the perspective of the consumer and see what they're really seeing about your brand. The other thing that this really emphasizes is there's no one solution for all. And we get pulled into this every day when we see, there's a new blog post out, the top 5 ways to succeed in social media. And I've probably written posts like that. But it's really not true. They might be useful tips if it's the right strategy for you. But there isn't this one top 5 or top 10 ways that's going to work for your brand, that worked for another brand, that worked for your organization. So when you actually go through this audit, you're going to find the one unique solution for your brand, for your messaging, your target audience, in your competitive landscape with what your consumers are actually discussing. Pinterest may be a good idea for one brand, but it's not working for you, so you don't need to be there. And it helps us flip our mindset to this perspective, and we can start planning and engaging this part of the funnel that we've been missing. But your objectives don't change. We're kind of handing control of the brand over a little bit, but we're acknowledging what's already there. But our objectives are still to sell a product or service, or change a perception, or get people to volunteer or support a cause, whatever you're working on. But the method to achieve those results is changing. Interruptive advertising messages, they still serve a purpose. Sometimes you need those big broadcast messages out there to generate awareness, but those are reduced, and we're kind of flipping a little bit, and we're increasing attractive content that's perceived as being valuable to the consumer. And it could be entertaining content, or it could be valuable content that helps them solve a problem or a need. And the most important part is, social is all about conversations and relationships. You have to have two-way communication. The problem with the hypothetical company we looked at is they were just implementing their IMC plan in a new channel, thinking of social as just a different place to distribute the message that they came up with. That doesn't work. For social to work, you have to engage in conversation, create content that your consumer wants to engage in, comment on, and share. And then when they create content, you find it, acknowledge it, and respond to them. That's the only way it can work. And a good key point to think about when you're first going through this process, because this is like the first step of identifying this is where we're at, and then what are we going to do in the future, is you have to decide, do we need a defensive strategy or an offensive strategy? A defensive strategy is if you did the social media audit and you tended to find a lot of somewhat negative comments and discussion around your brand. Usually what causes negative conversation on social media is your brand promise that you're delivering through your advertising, your digital marketing, and your PR messaging is not matching up to the actual brand experience when the consumer goes to purchase your product or experience your restaurant or whatever the service is. And then when people don't experience what they expected, they complain, and today they go to social media. And their voice on social media is pretty loud. So what you need to do is first, before you go to an offense and try to get more people talking about your brand and spreading your messages, if you don't fix this first, if you get more people spreading messages, there are going to be more people spreading negative messages. So you have to go back and you have to say, what's off? Is our experience off, or is our promise off? It's not always bad experience like, oh, customer service messed up, operations is doing something bad, the people in shipping are, maybe we're over-promising in our messages. We always got hired in advertising to put the product in the best light and make these big promises like it's going to solve all the problems in the world, but maybe we go a little overboard. And you know how the sandwiches look so amazing in the commercials? And then you go to the fast food restaurant and you're like, oh, it's so disappointing. So that's an overpromise. Maybe that's a combination of overpromise and there's something going on in operations that it could make the sandwiches a little better. But you need to fix that first, and that may be a hard conversation going to the people in operations, the people in shipping. Listen, half the products are getting there late and they're damaged. We have to fix this. Then you can move to an offense. Once you get any big issues fixed, and this is where your brand experience equals your brand promise, and you've actually found positive comments about your brand. So we found that on Instagram with the hypothetical company. They have a great in-store experience. So, and there's some conversation out there, not a lot, but now we devise a plan. How can we take that little conversation, motivate those fans to spread it further? first we need to jump into Instagram, then create contests or promotions or apps, any way that we can leverage that positive talk and make it spread further. And then of course we're always going to, at the end of the day, we're going to drive back to the business objective. And in this case, we wanted to drive people to the website. And if this is effective, it's going to spread to new people, and that will create unique visitors to the website, which increases our audience. So I have a couple case studies here of people that have thought this way. This one comes from Greece. And it's for this chocolate bar called Lacta, which is a chocolate bar in Greece. And this is a business consumer example. One of the great things they did, which makes this that they flipped their mindset and they flipped their methods, is before they could have easily taken their advertising message and fell in love with their big idea, and when they went to Twitter, they could just start posting it all over the place, their advertising slogan. But what they did is they first stopped and they listened and they did a social media audit to first see what's going on there. And they found something amazing that they really leveraged and used it in the best way.
Lacta is the leading milk chocolate brand in Greece. Its advertising has always been about people in love, comparing the feeling to Lacta's sweet taste. Its slogan translates to Lacta, the sweetest part of your life. While building the Facebook strategy for Lacta, we came upon a unique insight. People were comparing their loved ones to Lacta chocolate, writing, "You might not be Lacta, but you're the sweetest part of my life." So we made an application that did exactly that. It allowed people to send virtual Lacta chocolates to their loved ones on Facebook, comparing them to Lacta's sweet taste. Users could choose among the 4 different Lacta flavors and write their lover's name on the chocolate wrapper in place of the actual Lacta brand. As a result, the sender appeared to post a message on the Facebook wall of the recipient, visible to all their friends, saying, "You might not be Lacta, but you are the sweetest part of my life." Additionally, the image of the custom Lacta was posted on the sender's photo gallery, tagged with their lover's name, permanently available for everyone to see. The application quickly became a viral hit among young people in Greece. In the first weeks, more than 135,000 users sent out some 300,000 virtual Lacta chocolates. As a result, our Facebook page quickly gained a big audience, and from 87,000 users, it exploded to 250,000 fans in 2 months, making it the most popular Facebook page for any brand in Greece. But most of all, the application had a positive side effect we could have never anticipated. Hundreds of users set their customized Lacta as their profile photo on Facebook, resulting into an online trend that overtook Greek Facebook by surprise. It's difficult to estimate the media value of all this voluntary exposure. What's certain is that users valued our application more than we could ever imagine, because it enabled them to express and share their love. And that's very sweet.
That's like a marketer's dream. People are changing their Facebook profile photo to your packaging, right? And they didn't do it by taking their controlled, crafted, big idea in advertising or PR or whoever developed it and pushing it into Facebook because it's just another channel. They listened and they saw what was going on there. And they discovered what the people were talking about and they leveraged it. And they did a great job. A lot of times in all these talks and blog posts and case studies, it's always focused on business to consumer. So I also wanted to look at a business-to-business example. And this is an example of how one brand used LinkedIn in a way that they first went and they had a problem, communications problem, and they went and they first looked and viewed at what was actually going on in social media before they created their strategy.
Is the perception of HP as a large IT manufacturer who's very good at supporting large corporates, to making sure that our small business customers understood that we could be their trusted advisor. The solution we arrived at was trying to make use of existing tools, so we had a business answers hub which was full of information, white papers, testimonials, videos, but the content wasn't readily available to our customers or they didn't know where to find it. We decided to set up a group within LinkedIn to act as a space where small businesses can communicate with us, we can have a dialogue, they can communicate with each other, and we can answer their questions while they feel that we're contributing to their business and helping with their business issues rather than being spoken at or communicated at by HP. LinkedIn was chosen mainly because of its professional network. The people who are on LinkedIn are very receptive to receiving communications because of the professional nature of the environment. It's very much hooked into a lot of the other strategies we have surrounding social media, so Facebook, Twitter, but adds a much more professional angle to what we're trying to communicate to them. To encourage membership of the group, we've been including the LinkedIn group as our call to action on the majority of other activities we're undertaking, so whether that's above the line activities, whether that's on our Twitter, on our blogs, we use that as very much our call to action for people to join the conversation. To encourage people to participate in the group, we've undertaken a number of different activities. We've undertaken polls of the group to understand their feedback on certain topics. We post questions to the group, respond to questions that have been placed on the group, and we've also brought in a panel of experts now from different disciplines who are part of our SMB panel. So we've been really pleased with the results we've achieved. We've got nearly 5,500 members of our group now, actively engaged. About 75% of those members are returning to the group and participating in the conversations that happen. We know that members are twice as likely to recommend HP as their preferred brand. And in addition, we know that the group has grown organically, so we know of many different examples of conversations taking place. We even know people meeting up who met first through the forum and having a business conversation out of it.
So they had a website that had all this. Their problem was small businesses didn't even consider HP for their IT solutions because they thought HP was just for big corporations. But they have a small business division that sold products appropriate for small business. And they had this great website where it was all this valuable information to help small business people. But no one knew it was there, no one was going to it, no one was using it. They go and they listen, they're like, where is our target audience, where are they active? They're active in LinkedIn and they're trying to help each other through the struggles of being a small business person. Why don't we take all this content we have, create a group, invite them in, share the valuable information, and more importantly, engage with them, talk to them, try to answer their questions, bring in experts to help them. And it actually started in England, in Great Britain, and now there's a similar group that's been created in the US, and I think they're near like 300,000 members. But the members of the group were twice as likely to recommend HP after participating in the group. Those are great marketing results, but they first listened and they changed their perspective in the way they did it. So this flipping mindset, it's not about giving up all control of your brand. We're so conditioned to control everything, and I know that's the way we were taught, but the reality is we don't have control, so we need to be able to hand over the remote a little bit. Let the consumer drive the brand, choose the channel, what they want to talk about. It's about shifting our mindset. We're going the wrong way, pushing all the messages out. We need to let some information flow back in the other direction. It's okay. And we really need to see from the consumer's perspective. And it's hard. It's hard in our headquarters and our boardrooms and our meetings and our conference calls. For some reason, the consumer always gets lost. But that's the key to really discovering how to make all this work. And one thing we really need to do is we need to stop calling them our target audience. A target is like something you shoot, right? No, does not work in a social environment where you're trying to build a relationship with someone and there's communication back and forth. Right? It's more like you're trying to engage them, engagement, and you're courting the consumer to participate in your brand. You're not targeting them and blasting them away with messages. The great thing, and this is what really flips your mind, I mean, Facebook, what is it, 1.4 billion, and it's grown so quickly. The reason Facebook exploded so quickly was it's a new network that can do that. This is the original broadcast network. When I buy a commercial, when I buy a commercial on a top-rated program like Chicago PD or something like that, I buy on NBC and I literally reach the number of people watching. It's this broadcasts out to one person. Today on social media, it's all these networks of people connected to other people and networks connected to other networks, and that's how it can just explode so quickly and be such a more powerful model. The social network model is so much more powerful when you do it the right way versus the old broadcast model. So let me go past this and just end up, and then I can take questions. So social media can be intimidating and daunting, and kind of the reason I wrote the book was there's so much out there, and we end up in this paralysis of analysis. We don't know what to do, we don't know what to turn, we're just jumping on everything. But if you take the time and take a step back and go back to basic strategy, what are we doing in these channels? What is our consumer doing, talking about us where? What's our competitor doing? Why are we doing it? You can really get into you can start making sound strategic decisions as you move forward. And you can decide not to jump on a new channel just because people are talking about it. And you can get rid of channels you already started when you realize they're not working. Or we started them for the wrong reasons and the wrong objective. So ironically, we have lost control. We have to admit that. But in a twist on that is we have to let go of control in order to regain control. And it's not really control, it's to gain influence on the consumer. They're going to be talking about us, but if we allow them in and embrace them and share and respond to them, we can get both sides of this IMC model working together, pushing through all the disciplines, and meeting our ultimate business objectives at the end. Thanks.